Hey guys, how's it going? So, the Second Amendment is under attack, and so is the rest of the Bill of Rights. And in my opinion, we're on the verge of possibly losing our whole country if we don't do something about it. And when I say we, I mean just regular people like me and you, because we are the United States of America. See, when this country was founded, it clearly said our rights are endowed by our Creator. These are God-given rights the government did not give you. In fact, the government was only established to stand up and to uphold our God-given rights and to protect them and to protect the core fundamentals of this country, which includes life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, we elect public officials, public servants, and that's what we should call them, to represent us in Washington, D.C., and through all forms of local government. And this is the problem that we have. We have basically, like I've been talking about in my live streams, every Friday night, 9:30 p.m., we hang out live on this channel, and we talk about how when you go in to vote, and a lot of you are really frustrated with voting lately, and I understand that, I am too, and you look at the ballot, and there's a Democrat and a Republican, and basically you're looking at two sides of the same coin. So on one side you have the Democrat. They're promising if they're elected, they're going to, in most cases, fundamentally change America. And we can never let this become a communist country, and we don't want that. And they also promise that they're going to do gun control, people control, and they're going to take as many of your guns as possible, if not all of them. And then you flip to the other side of the coin, and often you'll see the Republican. And they're just another suit and tie. They're usually part of the establishment, and they don't really have any of your interests at heart either. And I would also agree with you guys when you say that too. So what can we do to make a change here? What can we do to actually try to preserve this country? You know, we do have a republic if you can keep it. Well, coming up here soon, we're going to have our primary elections. So in this video, I'm going to be hanging out with my friend and United States congressional candidate Mike Detmer, and we're talking about a couple things. First of all, primaries. I know it sounds boring, but they do matter, guys. And also whether our rights are absolute, because the former vice president just said they're not. And that's very scary, and it should scare you in a good way, like to motivate you to try to preserve our rights that were not given to us by government, but they're sure as heck trying to take them away, aren't they? So, are our rights absolute? Yeah, of course they are. Absolutely. So, here's what we need to do, guys. And this is if you're living here in Michigan, near me, or in these 50 United States. You guys need to start getting involved and pay attention a little more. Like I said, primaries are coming up. In many cases, there's going to be a pro-liberty, patriotic candidate that's running for office. And they often don't have the big donors and the big establishment money. But often these are the good ones that would actually represent our best interests, which is the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence. But not many people actually get out and care. And not many people get out there and try to actually get the good candidates on the ballot that will go to Washington, be a public servant, serve a couple terms, and then just go home, which in my opinion is the way that politics should work. So I encourage all of you. This video is for encouragement because we don't want to just sit here and complain all the time. Although it's good to complain, it's good to vent, and I do that too, but you need to get out there and actually see what's going on in your local community. And if there's nobody running for office that's truly going to be a patriot and truly stand up for our natural God-given rights, maybe some of you should run for office. You know, you can start out small as a precinct delegate. You could run for your local school board, township trustee, county commissioner, run for your city council. These are very important positions because a lot of changes happen on the local level. And of course, there's state representative, United States rep, and even senators on the state and federal level. So hopefully you like this video, just hanging out with my buddy Mike, and he is running for Congress, and I hope you guys can start becoming those boots on the ground. These guys need help with their campaigns. You know, you could pass out flyers, share things on social media. There's all kinds of things you can do to get involved, because we can't just keep complaining and say, well, hey, we're just not going to vote. We're not going to care because it's the same coin and this one sucks worse and the other side still sucks. No, we actually have to do something about it. So I'm going to keep doing more of these videos as time progresses here, but hopefully this offers encouragement to you guys. How's it going, Mike?
It's going. Working.
I hear you, man. I've been working a lot already, too. So, just to refresh everyone's memory, what are you running for?
The U.S. House of Representatives. Michigan's 8th district, which is right now, as it sits, until they redistrict everything, it's all of Ingham County, all of Livingston, and the northern portion of Oakland County, which is Alyssa Slotkin's district.
So you're working on beating Alyssa Slotkin, and this is a radical leftist Democrat that wants to destroy America, right?
This is a radical leftist Democrat who came into the 8th district to run for Congress. She's a resident of New York, but she worked for most of her career as a political hack with the CIA.
So here's a problem a lot of us voters run into. So it gets time for the general election, and we've got this radical leftist, and then we've got this establishment Republican that's the worst, the lesser of two evils. So what can we do to avoid these lesser of two evils, people that are getting on the final ticket?
Well, the problem really can be nipped in the bud during a primary, and that's key. And most people, most voters, they don't get involved in primaries. They want whichever party to sort it out, and then they show up to vote in the general election. That's how it's always worked. And unfortunately, what you end up with in a lot of cases are Republicans who aren't really Republicans. They simply cloak themselves in a Republican banner just to be on that ticket. And then if they do win, they're no better than a Democrat, or the Democrat wins. And now we find ourselves in the mess we're in.
So you're running right now.
Right now.
And you're going to be on the ballot for the primary in the Republican Party for the U.S. House of Representatives, right?
Correct. That's correct.
And this is an example, guys. We're going to have Mike on the show more as things progress here, but we need to get involved in primaries. I would actually argue, and I want your opinion on this, the primary can almost be more important than the general election in many cases.
Absolutely. If you have the right conservative, one thing that the Republican Party as a whole, and I'm talking about the establishment, they believe that, well, you really shouldn't waste time with the conservative independents that are out there because they don't normally vote. And that's true. But they do vote. They vote for the right people, and they vote on principle, and it's those folks that came out in mass for President Trump.
Yes.
And those are the same people. If we have a true conservative, a Ronald Reagan conservative, they'll show up in droves for that too. And that's what we have to have. We've got to have that for a primary,
yes,
and then we'll win the general election. But you can't have a squishy, empty suit running against a polished Democrat like Alyssa Slotkin and expect to win.
Yes, and if you're in Michigan's 8th district, I encourage you to support Mike. Give him a look. I think he's going to make us proud here.
And I want to add one thing to this too. For those of you who live in the 8th district, I don't know if they caught this or not, but when Alyssa ran for office the first time, she addressed a crowd of voters and she said that gun control or gun violence is a public health crisis, and she was here to fix it. So now fast forward, and we have Biden, I won't call him President Biden, but we have Biden in there now writing executive orders to infringe on your Second Amendment rights. And we have Alyssa Slotkin voting for several pieces of legislation which have made it through the House to infringe on your Second Amendment. And folks, now they're back to talking about reinstituting and putting panels together to research red flag laws, which are constitution killers. That's what we're facing, and we've got to have people in there that are going to fight against this.
And I've been talking about red flag a lot. And one more thing, for those of you throughout the country, Mike cares about the whole country, and we need to be all encouraged wherever you're at to find your patriot that's going to go there and raise a bunch of heck in Washington, D.C. to help us get our rights back. And I have one more question for you. The former vice president, I call him, he just said the Second Amendment is not an absolute right. What do you think about that?
Well, the founders of our country put a process in place to change the Constitution, but there's a very, very high threshold there to do so. So from that standpoint, he wasn't lying, but it would take a massive amount of change. A constitutional convention, for instance, could change the Constitution or change the amendment. And I know a lot of people out there, a lot of patriots are hoping for a constitutional convention, but if you send the wrong people, it could be a disaster for the Second Amendment. So be very careful with that. But there's a very high threshold. But in the meantime, the Second Amendment stands, and we've got to have people understand the Second Amendment was put in place not for hunting, not for self-defense. Those are all perks of the Second Amendment, but it's there to ensure that we, the people, have a way to defend against tyranny. It defends the entire Constitution, and it defends the entire Bill of Rights. And the other thing is, a lot of folks don't understand this. The Bill of Rights isn't in place to just enumerate our freedoms. it's there to restrict the government from infringing upon our freedoms. Our Constitution and Bill of Rights, it puts government in a box. It's not the other way around. We're not in the box. They are. But they've forgotten that. And a lot of voters have forgotten that. And a lot of our elected officials have no clue about that. So we've got to have people in there that actually understand the Constitution, why it was written, what the intent of our founders was, who will stand up and defend it today.
Yes, and it's just to affirm and to tell the government, don't tread on our God-given rights. And that's why we need to get the right people in Washington, D.C. that truly understand that and are willing to be a public servant.
That's right.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again.
As always, a pleasure.
Thank you. There's several ways that we can take our country back, and some of those methods we don't want, and we would want to use as an absolute last resort. At least that's how I feel about it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please share it with your friends. We need to all get together and have it where there's actually people representing us on the local level all the way up to the United States Congress. All right, thanks for watching, and have a good one.